Hello, welcome back to Tuesdays with Tom. I'm Greg. This week we just want to touch on some questions about staff training that have come up frequently. And it's very timely because we do have a staff training solution online that can really help you with much of this, especially for your RCFE programming. But I just want to go over what's required just briefly, and then there should be a guide available from our website if you're interested in learning more. There's also a guide that licensing has put out, and we can link that as well. First of all, new staff initial training is really the bigger concern. And just getting into that, when we're talking all staff, that would be any employee, not just your caregivers, but any employee. You need to have your staff trained across the board in first aid, without question. Everyone should have first aid training. The regulations state that everyone should have CPR and first aid training, but in practice, it usually looks like at least one employee on the schedule at all times who has a CPR training, and everyone should have first aid training. So you'll want to start with that. Every staff, from the time that they are hired, day one, they need to get some emergency and disaster preparedness training. That is training that's going to be pretty unique, potentially to your building. You need to go over emergency shutoffs for water, gas, electricity, etc., and talk about the safe exit routes. You must have a training in elder abuse or dependent abuse. This is a requirement of the Social Welfare and Institutions Code. That training needs to be completed within 60 days of hire. Also, all staff will need infection control training. This is something that should be done through your infection control lead. You should have an individual who is designated to do that sort of training, and all staff should receive that training through the infection control lead. And then, of course, resident personal rights training. This is just a no-brainer. We need to know our residents' personal rights and how we go about not infringing upon them. This is where the real questions come from, though. For RCFE, it's pretty specific what must happen. In the ARF world, it's soft. I know a lot of you have DSP training. That satisfies most of what needs to be done. But for RCFE caregivers, those who are involved as direct care staff who assist residents with activities of daily living, upon hire, that initial training is 40 hours in length. That 40 hours must be completed in the first 30 days of employment. Now, this is the part that gets a little tricky. 20 hours must be completed before any caregiver has direct contact or unsupervised contact with a resident. It needs to include a total of 12 hours of dementia care training, and it must include 4 hours of restricted conditions, postural supports, and hospice training. So those are important pieces to include. And then in the remaining 20 hours, needs to be completed by that 30th day. And that's where you're going to add some additional dementia hours. There's a total of 12 hours of dementia required. Most people will do 6 hours in that first 20, and then another 6 hours in the second 20. In some form and fashion, it's recommended that you do your dementia training as on-the-job training or hands-on training. It doesn't have to be, but the total 40 hours must include a total of 16 hours of on-the-job training. So what that means is you can use learning modules like we have at Community Care Options, but 16 hours must be conducted in person by somebody at your facility, one-on-one, in person, all right? So that's the initial training. To get more information on that, you can download our guide. Now, the training doesn't stop there. Annually, these same caregivers need to have 20 hours of training, and that needs to include 8 hours of dementia care, and we go back to that 4 hours of restricted conditions, postural supports, and hospice care as well. You can fill in the rest of that 20 hours with any kind of training that is specific to elderly care and the aging process. But it's always a good idea to think about emergency and disaster training, medication training, things that are pertinent to just the day-to-day. And it all needs to be documented. Every caregiver needs to get this training annually, and you don't want to miss those dates. So what does that mean? It means that training has to be done before your caregivers start connecting with residents. It means that training has to be ongoing. It means that training has to be documented. There's a lot involved here. Reach out to us at Community Care Options. We do have a solution that's really good. It satisfies all of this, and we can guide you through a way to put a program together at your facility. For now, thank you for joining us. Talk to you soon. Take care.